What's going on, guys? Happy Friday. In this video, it's probably going to be a shorter one, but I want to go over Cleanspark and Bitcoin and what's going on today. We're looking at a bit of a red day. Of course, we have the 3-day weekend coming up. It's not very surprising to see a little bit of red. People don't want to hold over the weekend. And of course, we might get the mining update before Tuesday. So people probably aren't trying to hold throughout just in case things don't look good. But what I do expect for the mining update is to see more added to their HODL balance, which I think is a good thing. I think it's a mistake to sell Bitcoin under 30 at the current timeline we're in. And Cleanspark even said now's the time to start holding their Bitcoin. But their mining update will be any time in the next couple of days. We'll probably get it by Tuesday. And I do expect to see a record Bitcoin amount. So we'll see how that goes. But I did want to show you guys Bitcoin and Cleanspark on the chart and go over what we typically see in the month of September. We do, of course, have the Fed meeting coming up. So I do think that'll bring a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. We do have some inflationary data coming in before the Fed meeting, so hopefully that'll come in favorable. But I do believe there will be a lot of fear in September. Typically isn't a good month for the stock market. And dating back to 1945, at least the S&P 500 SPX has delivered an average of negative 0.73% in September, which is the worst average performance of any month. And with the Fed meeting coming up and worries about another rate hike or perhaps another one in the next meeting, I do think it's possible September may play out to be another bad month. Looking at Bitcoin on the chart, it does look like we're finally breaking this kind of general trend, which isn't a good sign. It looked like it was really attempting to hold it. Now it just broke through this pattern. And you can see that there's already a clear reaction to the break of this pattern. I was just looking at this not that long ago and it was trying very hard to hold. Once we finally saw the break, we saw an accelerated move down here. I'm hoping that because the RSI is so close to oversold and the MACD has so much room to run to the upside, hopefully we'll find support right around 25 even. But if we don't do that, I do suspect Bitcoin can continue falling throughout this month. But in reality, I'm also looking at this like we're so close to the halving. And in baseball terms, I feel like we're in the 9th inning. We just got to get through this last little push here to get to the end, to get to where the halving comes around and the euphoria sets in. I think it's a fatal mistake to give up now, and any pullbacks approaching the halving to me are clear buying opportunities. But the chart definitely isn't looking good right now. We may see a further drop. We are now under all 3 EMAs, and the 50 just crossed the 100, and now it's heading towards the 200. And looking at the 50 and 200 EMA, we are under both of those as well. And it's falling even more as I do this video. By the time this is uploaded, we might likely test 25 even, but I do think a bounce may be coming there. It was a previous spot that we bounced off of. It was a previous very strong resistance. I've mentioned it before that if we do start pulling, we'll probably test 25. If we break 25, that definitely wouldn't be good for the short term, but I do see that as a potential buying opportunity if you're looking to add more Bitcoin at a low price. I personally think there's not a chance in hell that we're going to get back to all-time lows back towards the 15s. We may come down towards the low 20s, but I think that's about the extent of the drop we're going to get. And like I said, as we approach the halving, this is a great buying opportunity in my eyes at least. Now looking at Cleanspark, we're down 7% right now, definitely reacting negatively to Bitcoin's drop, and it did find resistance on the 50 EMA. And now we're back here hovering just under the 200 EMA, but I see this trend, this uptrend that we've started since the very beginning of this year. This trend to me is still intact. I think at the worst, we're going to come down towards the low 4s, test maybe 4 before pushing back up. But yeah, this month is going to be rough. We have the Fed meeting coming up. This is going to bring some fear in the market. And while I'm positive about the Fed rate hikes, we have one left maybe. Inflation is getting very close to their target. There's some inflationary data that's nearly deflationary now. I mean, look at PPI right now. We're looking really close to 0%. Back in 2020, it was negative. We are so close to seeing a negative PPI. And looking at CPI, we're right around the 3s. This only needs to pull back a bit to get right to that Fed target of 2% inflation. And then they can start tapering down, going to rate cuts instead of rate hikes. There may be a pause, of course, in between, but I do suspect, as I've said before, that by 2024 we will start seeing rate cuts. We'll start hearing about that on the news channels, and I do think this will positively affect small caps. When you're looking at small caps and they're unprofitable, the market knows with high rates you're either gonna have to acquire debt at a very high interest rate, or the stock's gonna likely have a lot of dilution. Those are two negatives, and that's why Wall Street for the most part has been avoiding small caps. And I do think this will shift once it's clear that the Fed is ready to start lowering rates. But looking back at Cleanspark, I think at the worst we will pull down to the low 4s. Of course, maybe if we break Bitcoin's 25,000, this might drop even more. But we're at the very end of this, in my opinion. To me, this is just a small pullback. And at the beginning of the year, we've been continuing to trend higher. and throughout the rest of this year we will continue higher up. That's my belief. I could be wrong, but just based on the halving coming around, based on where the Fed is at for rate hikes, based on where inflation is at, I do think by the end of the year, Bitcoin and Cleanspark will be much higher in price. We just have to get through September. It is typically a rough month. But in the end, Cleanspark is going to continue to see growing revenue. As Bitcoin gets into the bull run, Cleanspark will become profitable. And unlike last bull run, the majority of this bull run will have Cleanspark posting profitable quarters. Whereas last bull run, Cleanspark posted 1 or 2 profitable quarters at the peak of Bitcoin's price. But let me know what you guys think. How do you think this weekend will go for Bitcoin? I suspect it to be somewhat flat, if not slightly down. Definitely look for that $25,000 Bitcoin. If we break that, we may see a further push down and a great buying opportunity in my opinion. Thanks as always guys for watching, and have a good weekend.